They said, you had a seizure brought on by withdrawals from alcohol. You are lucky to be alive. Whenever I was a kid, I just felt like out of place with most people, just like I couldn't connect with them on like an emotional level or like even like a friendship level. I don't know what it was about me that was like that, but it just was always like that. And it really started to affect me, I noticed, after my grandmother died. I noticed that right after, I developed like a really deep sadness, and it was my first encounter with depression. That really was a big part of my life for many, many years, throughout my teens into my 20s. I just turned 23, and it's still a part of my life that I have to take care of. It really unlocked something in me where I was searching for some kind of relief, something to take that pain away. And I found that at the age of 10 with alcohol. I remember the first time that I really tried to get drunk. I knew what alcohol did to people. Like, as a kid, they give it to you and it's like, well, I'll spit it out, it's gross. But I knew what it did. I knew the purpose of drinking. I remember the first time I got drunk on my own, I was 10, and I waited until everyone in my house fell asleep. I snuck out of my room and went into a liquor cabinet, and I poured myself a shot of whiskey. It kind of changed everything. It was an immediate relief. Just as soon as it went down and I could start feeling the effects, it was saying, whoa, this is what you need, dude. This is gonna take that pain away. I think even that very first time I was developing alcoholic tendencies, and that was my drug of choice. It was alcohol, always alcohol. Because they would wake up in the morning and see that the bottles would be a little bit empty. I would lie and I'd say, oh, I don't know anything about that. That wasn't me, man. And I did that throughout my teens. It was going off instinct, basically. Like, I needed to hide this from people. It was a shameful act. I didn't want anyone to know that I was drinking. That kind of mindset always stuck with me. Like, you need to hide this because this is a bad thing. I think it got worse when I entered high school. I was hanging out with a lot more people, going out on my own. Like, I would buy alcohol from like friends who I knew could get it. Would get it from people who I knew would buy for me. I was constantly drinking, and I don't think anyone knew how much I was drinking. They knew something was wrong. They knew something wasn't quite right with me, but they didn't know exactly what it was, because I kept my my drinking very, very hidden. And eventually it started to affect the way I viewed the world. I had dropped any association with like religion or faith or anything of that sort. I thought it wasn't real. I thought it was fake. I actively hated the idea of a God or a higher power or anything like that, because it told me like, oh, if something really did create me, then why did they make me so messed up? Why are my thoughts the way they are? Why do I always think about just hurting myself in ways that I can't come back from? And every day I would constantly think about ways to kill myself, whether it would be jumping into traffic, hanging myself, shooting myself. And it was a massive part of that depression that I first encountered when I was a kid. And it never really left me. It always stayed in the back of my mind. It became habit. That good feeling, it got me drunk, but it didn't take away that pain. Like, I thought I would be like cool and like funny and understanding and things like that. And it wasn't doing that anymore. It was making me into a person that was hateful and spiteful and aggressive and violent. I had graduated high school and I was working now. I was still drinking constantly. I had it more available. I had money now, so I could get it. It kept going down and down, and my life kept spiraling down and down. And at the same time, my drinking kept getting worse and worse and worse. I had always subscribed to the idea of, I'm never going to do drugs. I don't want to do drugs. That's what like losers do, right? And I'd stuck with that. What I didn't realize was I was drinking so much that it was starting to kill me. It's like, oh, it's illegal. I could buy it. It's legal. I could buy it from the store. It's fine. It's just drinking. I had seen it growing up. Everyone drank at parties, at family gatherings, everything. I started to combine it with marijuana. So I would drink so much I would vomit. To stop that from happening, I would smoke marijuana to keep me from vomiting. I didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to vomit because I knew that would stop that feeling of being drunk. And I kept on doing that, and I kept on doing that. Eventually, I vomited one time, and it was blood. I thought, oh, I'm dying. I need to tell someone. I need to get better. But I didn't. I kept on drinking. I ignored it. I put it off, and eventually vomiting blood became a normal occurrence for me. It was just a thing that I did. It's like, oh, I vomit, there's blood in it. Oh, I vomit again, that's all blood. And I kept up with that until I didn't want people to be concerned with me. I didn't want them to worry about me, because when they worry, they have to talk to me, they have to dig a little bit deeper. And if they dug deeper, they would see that I was messed up. No matter how hard I tried to hide it, the more I drank, the more it got easier for people to realize that something's wrong with you, man. My sister, my brother, my dad, my mother, they all said, are you okay? Is something wrong? And I said, no, nothing's wrong. I'm okay. I was getting fired from all the jobs that I had because I was drinking on the job. I was driving drunk constantly. Never got a DUI, which is shocking. It's like, I definitely should have, and that maybe if I did, I could have stopped sooner. It would have snapped me out of it, but I never did. And I think that's something that I kind of wish would have happened sooner. It's like, I would have been found out sooner. Eventually, it got to the point where I was drinking almost hourly. 2 pints a day, coupled with a ton of beer throughout the day, just straight vodka. That was my deal. I don't know why. I think it was just the cheapest I could get it and the strongest at the same time. I thought I would hide it. I was really quiet, but even then, they could tell something's wrong with this guy. I don't know what it is, but something's up. It was when I lost my 4th job in a row. My dad came up to me crying because he could tell that I was killing myself. And that's one thing that I think I really was trying to do. I was trying to kill myself because I had thought about it many times before. And there's one instance where I actually put a gun in my mouth, but I couldn't pull the trigger. I was ready, but I just couldn't do it for whatever reason. And I hated myself for that. Not because I couldn't pull the trigger, but because I was such a fuck up. I couldn't kill myself in the right way. I couldn't even have the courage to do that right. That constant urge to just try and do better, but you fail, and now you hate yourself for it. My dad comes up to me, he says, I don't care about the job. I don't care about any of that. I just want you to be okay. I don't want you to hurt yourself. And he held on to me and he hugged me and he was crying. And I had never really seen him cry before. Whenever your child is killing themselves in front of you slowly, it breaks you in a way that it's difficult to come back from. I think, well, okay, maybe I do have a problem with alcohol. Maybe something is wrong here. I got on the phone with the drug abuse hotline, and I thought it was going to be about a 5-minute conversation. I stayed on with them for about 2 hours. I didn't know what to do because I had never dealt with alcohol abuse or drug abuse or anything of that sort. And so I just did the first thing I thought. I'm going to Google something, how to get help for drug abuse or alcohol abuse. They said, why are you calling? And I said, I think I might be an alcoholic. And as soon as those words left my mouth, I started to cry. And I had always said, like, oh, I'm not going to say I'm an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a problem. But I had never actually said it out loud. And I think the moment I did, it became real. This is a part of me, and I have destroyed my life beyond repair, and I don't know what to do. I'm scared. And that woman was so kind. I could still remember her voice. It was like an angel. And she said, I think it's best if you go to rehab. And I didn't know like where a rehab was. I was like, I've never done this before. And she said, well, there's one in Vegas, there's some in Phoenix. And I said, okay, I will go to rehab. And that was the moment where I said, I need something to fucking make me better. They drove me out to Arizona City the next day. I got into the intake and I was so messed up. All the people who were there that first day welcomed me in and were so friendly and caring in a way that I'd never really seen before. They got me through intake and I was walking around and I sat in the courtyard. But then my hand started to shake. I felt my whole body tense up, and I felt like massive cramps coming from my torso and then massive pain coming from my head. I couldn't get back up from that spot that I was sitting in the courtyard. It wasn't until another patient saw me out there and said, okay, you're going through withdrawals. We're gonna call the doctor on site, and she's gonna check you out. She did, and she was like, yeah, you're going through massive withdrawals. And I remember I couldn't even walk. Like, that other patient there had to help me. He had to put his arm around me and carry me to my room, into my bed. And as soon as I hit the bed, I started getting cold, really, really, really cold. And they kept putting blankets on me, and more blankets. And I didn't know what was happening, and I was scared. Those shakes couldn't stop. That pain couldn't go away. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I wanted it to, it just wouldn't. One of the BHTs, I remember it was kind of fuzzy, but I do remember them coming in and saying, we need to call the nurses because he could go into a seizure at any moment. And I remember all the nurses coming in, them like having to hold me up while they feed me Valium after Valium, trying to get the shakes to stop. I think I took about like 10 Valium in like about 10 minutes or something like that, just trying to get those shakes to stop. I don't know how much they gave me though. It was a lot. I was covered in sweat. The bed was soaked. It looked like someone had dumped a bucket of water on the bed. They said, well, you're gonna need to shower because we called the EMTs. Let's get you up. Let's get you in the shower. And I couldn't even do that. I was in so much pain, I couldn't walk about 5 feet to a shower. So my roommate had to come in, a guy who never met me. I had never met him, came in, put a chair in the shower for me, undressed me, turned the shower on. I couldn't feel how hot it was because that's how much pain I was in. They had turned the heat all the way up without any of the cold on. I remember one of the nurses touching it and she pulled her hand away. She said, that water's boiling, and I couldn't feel it. That's how much pain I was in. I couldn't feel the pain of boiling water over the pain of withdrawals. I still couldn't stop the shaking. My whole body was still tense, and the EMTs come in and they throw me on the gurney. They wheel me out into the ambulance, and the doors shut and I black out. I had entered a seizure. I woke up the next day in the hospital with IVs and heart monitors on my chest. And if I had tried to get sober on my own at my house, I definitely wouldn't be here. I would have died there. Thankfully, I broke down and went to rehab and got sober there, where they could provide me with all this help that kept me alive and kept me here today. When I asked them, they had told me that was one of the worst withdrawals they had ever seen. Definitely in the top 5. Some of them thought I wasn't gonna make it, and I almost didn't. And they were absolutely right to believe that, because I could have definitely died in the ambulance or died at the hospital. I think that was another shock for me to say, well, I had never tried hard drugs before, and like, maybe I wasn't really an alcoholic. No, dude, that was like the final straw for me. Whereas like, you got put in the hospital, you almost died, you got a seizure from this, and it's something that you could buy at this convenience store everywhere. So I said, fuck it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to get over this. I'm going to listen to the people who I think know what the answer is. And it was the BHTs, the other patients, and my sponsor, my temporary sponsor at the time. And I just dived headfirst into the program, and as hard as I could go, because I never wanted to go back there. They always say that relapse is worse than the first time, right? Well, my first time fucking got me almost killed. If I go back out, I'll die. Like, that's just what will happen. I didn't want to die anymore. And that's something that I can proudly say, like, I don't want to die anymore. I want to live. And that was always hard for me to say as a kid growing up. I had just gotten through my first step. They broke me down in a hot seat, and everyone just pointed out my faults and just trapped me in my words and said, yeah, you're fucked up. You're an alcoholic. You need to be here. And I got through that, and I said, well, if I fucking started this with how hard I started it, I might as well finish it. I was spending a few weeks, not even a few weeks, just a week trying to find my higher power. And it wasn't until Sunday where one of the BHTs started a program to take patients to a local church, and it was called Cowboy Church. They'd play like gospel music in a country style. They'd have donuts. They'd have real good coffee there. And I thought, well, I kind of want to just get out of here for like a day, for like even at like an hour. And so they took us there, and all the songs that they were singing felt like it was being sung directly towards me. Like, oh, you strayed from your path, but now you come back into God's arms and God's love, and it'll be all right. And I was like, oh shit, that's talking right to me. And yeah, I found my higher power right there. And I do call that higher power God. I thought I was doing really, really good, and I was doing good. And I remember the next week I got a call from my girlfriend at the time, and she had told me that she had miscarried. That really hurt me. I was on a pink cloud for about a good 2 weeks, saying I'm doing good, I'm getting my life back on track, and then I get hit with something like that. I cried so much, and I thought, well, it's hard for other people to understand what I'm going through, until one of the BHTs came up to me and he said, I know exactly what you're going through. My wife was murdered while I was in rehab. That was another stepping stone for me, coming to the realization that as bad as you have it right now, someone has it much worse. And if you just take the time to ask, you could realize how fortunate you are. That still stuck with me, that hung over my head, but it wasn't going to take me down. And I finally get out of rehab. I finish my stay there, and I go right into sober living the very next day. Well, actually, that very night, I go into sober living. I'm doing good. I started up an IOP, and I get comfortable with the people that I'm around. At first, it was scary. It was being back out into the world where you're not as protected as you are when you're in rehab. Keep you away from all the things that can take you out, totally. There was just like a liquor store like 2 blocks away that I could walk to, and I had to walk by it every day to get to the bus stop to go to my IOP. And that was a big challenge for me, but I stayed strong. And eventually I became really comfortable with talking to the counselors at my IOP, Tempe Valley Hope. And it was there that I finally admitted to myself, to God, and to another human being exactly what brought on the massive amount of self-hatred I have for myself. And it was because I was molested at the age of 4. And it was by an immediate family member. And it hurt me. And it affected every aspect of my life from the way I talk to people, to connect with people, to the way I view myself. It destroyed my self-view, the way I view myself. It made it as the way I look at myself as something to be hated, as kind of a mistake. It hurt me so much to actually say that out in the open because, again, it's making it real. It's saying this happened to you and you can never change it because it's in the past. That night and that next day, I didn't want to do anything. I just stayed at the sober living. I was just really having a lot of self-pity for myself. I was saying, poor me, poor me. You do that too much, pour me another drink. Eventually, I decided to get up off my ass and go do something about it, to take away that pain that I was feeling. And what I learned at the River Source was to go to a meeting, go talk about it. You talk about it, you pray about it, you be a service. And I went to the closest meeting that I could, and that was GIT out in Chandler. It was hard for me to say it there too. It still hurt to say it. Even in a room full of people that I didn't really know, it was hard. So I waited until the next meeting there, and I said it again. I got it out. And it was a little bit easier. So I decided to go to another meeting, another one at the Pigeon Coop, and I said it there. Waited again for another meeting at the Pigeon Coop, I said it there. Went back to GIT, and said it there. And I noticed each time I said it at a meeting, it got easier and easier and easier to deal with. Eventually to the point where I was comfortable and okay saying it by the last meeting. I said, well, yesterday I found out that I was molested. And I finally admitted that to multiple people throughout the day. It was a relief to know that something that horrible can happen to a person, but that person can still get over it. And that was when the really hard work started, where I scheduled an appointment with the therapist and got into EMDR. And that shit's hardcore because they're basically making you relive that experience over and over and over again until you become desensitized to it, until you say, that can't harm me anymore because I've lived through it 1,000 times. I figured out techniques to get my mind off of that subject and to get it more focused on something calmer and easier to deal with. But even if I can't get off that subject, I already know that it can't hurt me the way it used to. It's just desensitization that really helped me. A massive amount of time of just working on myself, looking at my character defects and trying to turn them into something that's positive, a way that I can just live life like a normal adult, like a normal person who doesn't need to rely on a chemical to get him through the day to help deal with pain that he just naturally has inside of him. It comes down to work. And if you're willing to do whatever the fuck it takes, no matter how hard it hurts, and it will hurt a lot. If you're just willing to do it and just trudge through the shit, you'll come out a better person. And today I'm proud to say I do think I am a better person. I still have the same sponsor as that first night when I got out of rehab. I still go to meetings regularly. I finished up continuing care for my IOP. I have over a year sober. I have a new job where I work with children. And that's something that really trips me out because you look at me back in 2016, I would have just straight out said, fuck those kids, man. No, I don't want to deal with them. They're kids. That's not for me. Now I look at them and say, wow, I can teach these kids something really cool. And that's beautiful to me because I'd never thought that's a way my life would have went. I thought I was going to die an alcoholic, die drinking, or killing myself. Now I genuinely don't want to. I live a beautiful life. I have beautiful friends. I have a great relationship with my family. I feel like I am, for the first time in my life, happy to be alive.
Please subscribe, comment, and like our channel. Thank you for watching.